We have finally begun Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury retrograde is a time that throws a lot of people off. There's a lot of misconceptions about it. And I just want to come on here, talk to you guys about this Mercury retrograde. We have begun today Mercury retrograde in the sign of Pisces. Mercury, the planet of communication, travel, and technology. This planet is now retracing its steps in the sign of Pisces, which it was direct in. So Mercury had entered, I think Mercury was in Aquarius, and then Mercury entered Pisces. And with Mercury being in Pisces, now Mercury is, it's actually exalted in the sign Virgo. So with it being in opposite its sign that it's exalted in, with it being in Pisces, this makes it kind of really like it's not at home in this sign. So it does make communication a little bit harder. A lot of people might be getting overly emotional. People may be having breakdowns, arguments, sibling rivalry, I even seeing. But with it being in the sign of Pisces, don't mind me, I am sick. With it being in the sign of Pisces, this is a very interesting thing. The next 3 weeks will be very touch and go, I feel. Now, Mercury retrograde does occur about 3 times a year for 3 weeks each period. And this one will be up until March 4th. It will be from February 16th to March 4th. So contrary to popular belief, Mercury retrograde is a time to slow down. It's not a time, like, you won't constantly be having to deal with your exes. I know that's a big thing about Mercury retrograde, is that you have to, like, your exes are going to pop back up. And the thing about Mercury retrograde, it allows us to revisit old wounds. And it allows us to revisit old ways that we have miscommunicated. Especially in relationships. I do think relationships are going to be big because Mercury has gone retrograde in Pisces so close to Venus, which is in Aries right now. And Venus in Aries is very direct, very blunt, very passionate, very charismatic, very wants to do the chasing and not be chased. But it is also very impulsive. Is very identity is a big thing, because Aries' big thing in life is his identity. So how we identify in relationships are going to be big right now. How we identify emotionally and how we make those connections. So emotional communication may be very weird, I feel like, with this Mercury being in Pisces. So we do have, with it being in retrograde, with Mercury being retrograde, this isn't the best time to start any new businesses. This isn't the best time to sign any contracts. This isn't the best time to make plans. This is really the time to revisit and to reassess. I feel like this is a Four of Swords energy. Four of Swords meet, I just had it in my mind, the scales, not Libra. Justice. Four of Swords meets justice. This is a proper response. That's what justice is all about, proper response. And I feel like in this moment, with Mercury being in retrograde, we can decide how we're going to respond to this retrograde. This is also going to be a very big, because Pisces is also spiritual, right? So I feel like we're going to be revisiting a lot of patterns in our spirituality. We're going to be really looking at our routines. We're going to be really looking at our connection, our relationship with spirit. Something that's been coming up for me a lot lately is how I relate to God or spirit, whatever you would like to call the creator. So we're going to be having a lot of things like that coming up. Some questions that came to mind when I was thinking of this is like, what in our lives make us feel safe? What in our lives are real? Because Pisces is so big on fantasy, on escapism, on seeing things that are not there, right? So with Mercury retracing its steps in Pisces, communication. So this is how we're communicating those things in our lives, and how those things in our lives are coming out, and they're not like, it's hard to explain. You have things in your head and you have to say it. It's kind of looking at our lives and seeing what works and what doesn't. It's seeing what's real in our lives and what's not. What is not going to bear fruit? What is not? I was watching Leo King and he said it so perfect. You know, what do we need to change and what are we not going to change? because Mercury retrograde in any sign is a great time to revisit. But I feel like with it being in Pisces, is revisiting our dreams, revisiting our goals, revisiting what we have brought into our lives, that how we identify also with our goals, our dreams, and what is realistic and what is not. What do we need to be letting go of? What do we need to get rid of? And what is going to take us to the next level? What are the things right now that we can revamp and restyle? And what in our lives do we need to chalk up to fantasy and dream? Because Pisces is a great place of illusion. So we're looking in our lives at those things that are illusions. And when we revisit these things in our lives that have become illusions, how are we going to deal with it now? I feel like that's a great thing when Mercury retrograde. It's like, okay, now that you know, now that you're re-seeing it, how are you going to handle it going forward? Okay, Mercury retrograde is a great time for inner reflection. It's a great time to, I think, take time away from technology, because technology might be on the fritz for a couple of weeks. It's a great time to take away and, you know, not be on social media. Also, it's a leap year, so that's a little weird. I don't know if that's going to add days to, it might make February seem a little longer, so it might make Mercury retrograde feel a little bit longer. Now, also, we have Mercury retrograde in the sign of Pisces, and this week on the 18th, we go into Pisces season. So we're going Mercury retrograde in the sign of Pisces in Pisces season, which I think will be incredibly interesting to deal with. But we have all of these things happening, so our emotions may be all over the place. We might not be able to really pinpoint exactly how we feel. We may not know how we feel or how to put it into words these next couple of weeks. So I think that the best thing is not to jump to any conclusions, not to act on our feelings, because that's something that Pisces does. It acts on emotion. So I do think that we have to kind of really be very worried this week of how we're acting, and if we're acting on emotion, and if we're thinking things through, and if we're relaying the message the correct way, if we are saying what's really in our heart, or we're just bypassing it. We have to really look at the life that we've imagined for ourselves, with Pisces being imagination, and ask ourselves, is this realistic? Can I get this done? Or is this just, you know, is this something that I need to just release? Or how can I bring that into my life, you know? So Mercury retrograde, it's not a bad time. This is a time of second chances. This is a time to rewrite some of the things that we've done wrong with our communication, some of the things that we have done wrong with our relationships, how we have relayed things. And I think this is just a great chance to just take it slow down, take a chill pill. I am forced to take it slow because I'm sick right now. My daughter has been sick for the past 2 days, and I have really had a chance to like slow down. Or you will be forced to slow down. Spirit will force you to slow down. But I don't want you guys to think that Mercury retrograde is this big bad time. This is really a time for just inner reflection, man. Inner reflection. Especially when it comes to those relationships and how we communicate our truth and our needs and our wants, and how we're allowing others to communicate back to us. How we are, you know, healing from those old relationships that may not have went our way. How we are healing when it comes to things that we do have to let go in order to evolve, how we're healing from that, and how we're identifying ourselves in our relationships. Who are we in our relationships? Who are we a part of our relationships? It's a big thing. But I don't want you to think Mercury retrograde is the worst, or that the entire time that the Mercury is retrograde, all you have to worry about are your exes coming back. And if your exes do come back, it's for a reason. No one comes back into your life for no reason. No one comes back and there's always a lesson. So you have to remember that when planets go retrograde, instead of thinking, oh fuck, Mercury's retrograde, think, what am I gonna learn this Mercury retrograde, that I get to have a chance to go through Mercury retrograde again? What am I gonna learn? Maybe this time I'll set more alarms. Maybe this time I'll back up my computer. Maybe this time, you know, I won't sign up for that. Maybe this time I will choose to just not isolate, but kind of like fall back, You know, what are you going to do differently? And when those themes pop up in your life, when the themes pop up in your life and you ask yourself, do I have a future with this goal, with this project, with this relationship? Is there a future? If not, what am I going to do? Is this realistic? Can we communicate? Is there trust? And if this isn't realistic, if this is just a way for me, escapism, I feel, can be in a form of a person. Is this a way of me just trying to ignore myself? So I think, you know, this period of Mercury retrograde can be very beneficial. We need to focus on issues that we may have in our spiritual practice. Maybe you haven't been feeling close to spirit or close just to your higher self. And with your creative side, because Pisces is very creative, you can also be figuring out maybe why your creative juices haven't been flowing, what's blocking you. Revisit why a certain project didn't work out. Revisit why you gave up on something. Or if you need to give up on something, maybe you've been working very hard and you have to give up on something because you just know that it's not working. You have to have this time, these next 3 weeks, before it goes direct. And I think that Mercury will go direct in the sign of Aries, I'm pretty sure. Yes, that's the next. So before it goes direct in Aries, you have this time to figure out, okay, what needs to be fixed? What needs to be rethought? What needs to be let go? How do I communicate better? How do I figure out how I identify with these things, with these people? Is there a future? Okay? So don't think Mercury retrograde is the worst. It's not the worst.